At the outset, with a very warm welcome, and also wholeheartedly, I welcome all the participants who have registered for this webinar. I express my sincere thanks to the Principal of Government Postgraduate College, Badami, Professor Gigi Remat. I also express my sincere thanks to Dr. S.L. Patil, Technical Programming Director, for this webinar. I also express my sincere thanks to the Professor Seranabasappa, Organizing Secretary of this webinar, who has invited me as a resource person for this webinar. Professor Jaiprakash Bligi, Programming Secretary, for this webinar. I also welcome all the joint secretaries of these webinars, and directly and indirectly we have supported for the success of this seminar. Almost the S.L. Patil sir called me a few days back and requested me to be a part of this webinar and invited me as a resource person. Wholeheartedly, I expect their invitation, and I today presenting my paper on the research. The topic they have taken for this webinar, it is a very multidisciplinary in nature. It is a very universal approach. Almost all the faculty members and students at the degree college level and the PG level, at the university level, they should have a knowledge of research methodology. The 1 week national level multidisciplinary online faculty development program on the topic of research methodology, emerging perspectives, challenges and opportunities, organized from 25th to 31st of this month. It is one of the very good national level webinar, most useful for the many of the faculty members across the country. This topic is no doubt very much helpful to update the knowledge in the field of research, and also for the faculty members who want to publish their research publications in the reputed journal. They can enhance their research visibility across the country, across the world, and thereby they can enhance their research knowledge in their field of specialization. The topic they have taken very appropriate and useful on the present context. Most of the colleges and universities they are going for the accreditation of the NAC in the third criteria of the NAC, research and innovation. So we should have a thorough knowledge of research methodology. One should have to publish the research article. One should have to write the research article. One should have to do the research. Now we have very much mandatory for us. We should have our impact factor should be, we have to enhance it, and our H index should be enhanced. We should receive the maximum number of citation for our research work. If you want to do all these things, one should have a thorough knowledge on research, and this webinar, no doubt it will going to be helpful very lot for all the faculty members and students. This will be one of the benchmark also for many of the students. Myself, Dr. Gavsiddappa Anandalli, Associate Professor and also in charge librarian at Karnataka State Akmadevi Women's University, Vijayapura. My topic for the discussion or presentation is on testing of hypothesis by using parametric and non-parametric test. This is one of the most important steps in the research process. One has to have a thorough knowledge on this. Most of the research findings and to draw the meaningful conclusion in your research, you should have a knowledge of research hypothesis and testing of hypothesis. It is most useful and helpful for getting the wonderful findings of the research. To begin with my research topic, let us we to understand the concept and meaning of research first. As you know that the research, it is a self-explanatory. The word, the answer is embedded in the word research only. Research means search once again. You are searching for what? You are searching for the knowledge. You are searching for the facts. You are searching for the information. You are searching for the information. So research is nothing but a searching for something which is unknown to us. So basically it is a scientific and systematic search for information on a particular topic or issue. Always the research we should do it a very systematic way, very logical way, in the very methodological way we have to carry out it so as to achieve the desired result in the research. It is the art of scientific investigation. According to the Redman and Moore, research is a systemized effort to gain a new knowledge. So when you do the research means always we have to invest something. You have to invest something and you have to gain the new knowledge on that area. According to the Clifford Woody, research comprises with the process of research. He explained about the meaning of research. It is nothing but a defining and redefining the problem, formulating hypothesis, suggested solution, collecting, organizing and evaluating data, making deductions and reaching conclusion, and finally carefully testing the conclusion to determine whether they fit the formulated hypothesis or not. So in this process he explained the entire process of research. In the beginning we have to identify the research topic. Once the topic is identified, it has to be formulated in the researchable sense. Then we have to work out the objectives of the research. Later we have to formulate the research hypothesis, and for testing of that hypothesis you have to collect the data. So you have to collect the required data, you have to organizing the collected data, you have to evaluate that data, and based on the evaluation of the data you have to draw the conclusion, and you have to make the inferences about your research work, and you have to test that hypothesis whether it can be accepted, whether it can be rejected for the deciding the decision of the population parameter. And if you know the importance of research, today research play very important role and very significant role it's play across the world for the betterment of society, betterment of the living standard of mankind. And basically research is nothing but a what? Research is nothing but a finding the solution to the given problem, or it is finding the answer to the question. We have so many questions are there, we have so many problems are there. If you take the example of the present crisis of the coronavirus, the whole world is witnessing, and it is a totally depressed and deprived and also facing the very difficult and challenging situation across the world because of the impact of outbreak of coronavirus. The whole world, the economy is totally collapsed, health of the humankind is totally collapsed, and many millions of the peoples across the world have died because of this coronavirus. Billions of peoples have affected and reported as positive cases, and also they are struggling for their health, and future is became a questionable for millions of people. Most of the peoples across the world have lost their job, and totally we are in the very depressed and deprived situation. Now what we have to do is to overcome this problem. The answer for this question is only a research. research can find the solution for this great challenge task. So research will find the solution to this problem. That's what many countries are involved in the development of the vaccine for controlling and combating the coronavirus. And this research help us to find the solution. This way, research contribute to the development of theories, and most of the theories what we come across today, for example, Newton's law, Newton's theories, Einstein theories, so many theories are developed in the physics, chemistry, in all the sectors. Okay, Maslow's theory we have come across. So this theory developed because of their research only, and discovering the new things and possible solutions, and find the solution to the many problems and discovering the truth. Always the research is meant for finding something which is known to us. Okay. uh, and also the research helps the gap in the knowledge system and change the life better and more professional one. Okay, your research will enhance the quality of your life, and also improve the standard of living of the people across the world. Research must always be high quality in order to produce the knowledge that is applicable outside the research settings. If you come to the actual part of the uh, discussion, that is testing of hypothesis, most of the research scholars, as I have seen personally in my university, one of the major challenge and very difficult task for them is testing of hypothesis. Up to this stage in the research, they are done very well. They are totally confused and very compounded with the testing of hypothesis, because this stage is one of the most important stage, and it will decide the future of your research also. Whether it based on the knowledge of your research, based on the knowledge about the research methodology, it will decide the major findings of your research work. That's what the testing of hypothesis, it requires the knowledge about the research and research methodology and the statistics, and the sampling design. If you have a knowledge, means you can able to do better in the testing of hypothesis. Basically, what is meant by hypothesis? Hypothesis is nothing but it is a assumption or a statement that may or may not be true. Okay, according to Good and Act, he defined the hypothesis in that way. So hypothesis is nothing but it is a tentative statement. Its validity remains to be tested. You cannot take it for granted. This is true actually, this is wrong actually, just based on the background literature, based on the previous experience, based on our outcome of the research, we have made some assumption. That assumption may be true, may not be true, and its validity remains to be tested only and when you have tested with the appropriate statistical test, with the appropriate data, then only you can able to make the correct decision about the statement. Okay, it is tested on the basis of information obtained from the sample. It is widely used in business and industry for making decisions. Okay, so for example, if you take the measure the standard height of Indian citizens, what I have say is, we have set the some hypothesized population mean value is about 5.5 feet. In order to, it is a benchmark statement and it is a standard value. The Indian standard height of the citizen is 5.5 feet. In order to verify this statement or this assumption, what I have to do is, I have to collect the sample data from 50 people. I have to measure the height of the 50 people randomly, and add all the heights of the 50 people, divided it, and take the average value. If your average value is nearest to the population values, if it is nearest to 5.5, then you can say that so the hypothesis is true. The statement of Indian standard height of the citizen is 5.5. If your calculated sample mean value is deviated lot from the hypothesized value or standard value, then whatever the statement they have said, it is wrong. So the mean value is deviated from the sample value. Therefore, a null hypothesis is rejected. Alternative hypothesis, what we have said, the mean average height is this much, is wrong. It is differ from that. This way you can check the uh, meaning of hypothesis. This is used in many things in science as well as in social science. A hypothesis is an assumption made about the population parameter. This can be provided or disproved with the help of sample data about the population parameter. We have a population parameter and we have a sample. That sample we have taken from that population only, and by studying the characteristics of the sample, that can be inferred to the population characteristics. So because that sample is drawn from the same population, so automatically we assume that that sample is also exhibiting the same characteristics. That way we can draw it. It is a tentative statement related to the independent variable to a dependent variable. This relationship is opening for testing. Okay, now it is a tentative statement, it making the relation between the sum of the dependent variable and sum of the independent variable. Relation may be a positive or it may be a negative. It is associated, it may not be associated. Only we come to know the truth after collecting the valid data, after testing it thoroughly. Then only you can come to the actual facts of the statement. Okay. So in order to understand this meaning in the more clarity way, the academic performance between the girls and boys students is same. Okay, I made the statement. Most of the cases recently we have seen in the paper, the girl students have done better than the boys. This is a statement we have received it because of the results, the paper they have given it. Okay. So in this case, the girl students did better in academic performance than boys. Okay. To check this statement once again, you cannot take it for granted that one also. If you want to check it for the sample data, you collect some 200 or 300 students. It has compromising both boys and girls. Take the marks of the girls separately, take the marks of the boys separately, calculate the average of the girls, calculate the average of the boys, make the comparison. If the boys average mean is tending towards the girls almost close, means the performance you can say that they are of the same academic performance. If the boys performance is away from the girls mean value, then girls are doing better than the boys. In case in this situation, if the boys performance is much better than the girls, means then we can say that boys are doing better than girls in the academic activities. So it all depends upon the type of data we supposed to collected from the respondent. Okay. So it's play a major role in the research investigation because it give the direction to the researcher. Otherwise the researcher don't know how to, in what way we have to carry forward the research. The research hypothesis will give the direction to the researcher. It's play a very major role in the investigation of research. The statistical hypothesis is a statement or conclusion or an assumption about the certain characteristics of population which is drawn on logical basis, and it can be tested on the basis of the sample evidences. Just in the statistical evidences we make the comparison between the population parameter and sample statistics. Based on that you can take the decision. The test of hypothesis means either accept or reject the hypothesis under the valid reason. Okay, you cannot take it for once you formulated the hypothesis, you cannot take it for granted this is correct, this is it is a benchmark. It may be true, it may be false. Either you can accept it or can reject it. It all depends upon the how the outcome of the testing results are there. The test of hypothesis is based on the test of significance. The test of significance enables the researcher to decide either to accept or reject the statistical hypothesis. For example, to understand the hypothesis in the more clear and better way, one of the manufacturer company producing the bolt of different sizes and claim that not more than 2% of the bolts are not defectives. There is a manufacturing company is there, it producing the bolts of different sizes. Company claim that that company not more than 2% defective you cannot find in their production. So we have to verify the claim made by the company by searching and selecting the sample data with the help of statistical hypothesis. How you can do it? Companies producing the bolts of different sizes. What the company says, that company claiming that it is not more than 2% defective bolts are not producing in their production. Error is only 2%. In order to verify the claim made by the company, what I can do is, or the research can do is, you can select 100 bolts and test that bolts, measure it. Out of 100, if the 5 bolts are defective, maybe larger size, maybe some damages in the quality of the bolt production. If you find only 2 out of 100, then you can say that the claim made by the company is correct. Suppose whatever the sample you have selected about the 100 bolts, and in that sample suppose you have got 5 to 6 samples very defective, then the company claim is wrong. So now the percent is going almost about 5% or 6%, but the company claiming that it is only 2%. Therefore, it is far away from the company claim. So the hypothesis can be rejected. Whatever the claim made by the manufacturer company, then it is more than that. Suppose if you don't find any defaults or any defective bolts of selected sample, then it is a zero error. Then claim that even not 2% defective is not there. Therefore, the company claim of the 2%, it is less than 2%. That way we can verify the hypothesis. The new drug is more effective than the existing one based on the sample data. So we have a new drugs have almost produced, and the impact of the new drug is more than that of the old drugs if we do better way. Or the company wants to verify the effectiveness of the advertisement given through the print media and electronic media. Now the company, in order to enhance the sale of the production of the company, they have selected the mode of giving the more popularity for the production is they are going for advertisement. In the advertisement they have selected the two streams. One is print media, they have given the advertisement. Other one is electronic media, they have given the advertisement. Okay, now they want to see which media is more effective between the two, whether the sale is more going through the electronic media, impact of the electronic media is more on the sale, or the impact of the sale is more on the print media. They can compare it. Okay, so if the anything which is more means impact is more means automatically the company will select that particular mode only. Okay, this way we can make the hypothesis and draw the conclusion. Let us discuss about the characteristics of hypothesis. Hypothesis must be valid, try to explain the phenomena. Okay, it should be very clear, it should be very specific, and it should be testable. and there should not be any ambiguity in the statement. Okay, it may be there, may not be there, it can be done, it cannot be done, like that. It should not be there. The statement should be very clear, very specific, it should be testable, it should have a empirical evidences for the testing of hypothesis. It is always doubtful whether it can correct or wrong. Okay, whatever the statement I made, just now I made the defect is only 2%. It may be correct, it may not be correct. How you can do and arrive the particular conclusion? Only you have to collect the data, you have to test it and draw the conclusion. It is a transitory phase of research process and it is a provisional. Okay, you cannot take it for granted once it said that statement. Okay, it is a transitory, it is a temporary one, it is a provisional one. Okay, so its validity again to be tested. Okay, a good hypothesis is accessible to all. Any research can use it for his research work, for further interpretation of his research work. Empirical references, one should have to able to extract the original problem condition. So basic concept of related to the testing of hypothesis. So in the hypothesis we have understanding what is the hypothesis. Hypothesis basically a tentative statement in the research, and we have to verify that statement. We have to collect the data related to that, basically consisting of the dependent and independent variable, whatever the claim we have made and the relation we have formulated between the dependent and independent variable, that has to be tested properly and authentically and draw the conclusion based on the outcome of the result. Still, to understand the basic concept related to testing of hypothesis, we have two types of hypothesis. One is null hypothesis and other one is alternative hypothesis in the testing procedure of hypothesis. Null hypothesis, always denoted by H0, states that there is no difference between the population parameter and the sample statistic. It is always state test for possible rejection. It says always no difference, no association, no relationship between the two variable or among any one of the variable. Null hypothesis, it is a self-explanatory. Null means nothing is there. There is a same. Always it is formulated for possible rejection. The first statement, there is no difference between the population parameter and that of the sample statistics. It is same in all terms of characteristics. Always it says no difference existing between the two variable. For example, if I take the old example, no significant difference between the academic performance of the boys and girls. There is no relation between the BP and sugar. There is no relation between the anything you can say between the expenditure and income of the family. Even though in reality it exists also, the null hypothesis always says that there is no difference, there is no association, there is no correlation between the two variables or among any one of the variable. The null hypothesis is denoted by H0, or H0 is equal to mu H0. Okay. If you take the example, there is no difference in the average sale of the month before the training and the average sale of the month after the training. So in order to measure the impact of the training of the sale, what I have to do is you have to take the difference, the sale of the month before the training, the average sale after the month. If the difference exists very close, the training given for the sale, the production doesn't make any impact. You can draw that kind of conclusion. If the sale of the month after the training, if it is enhanced, if it is triggered, if it is spike, if it is triggered or increased before the training month, then you can come to the conclusion that the training has made a very much impact on the sale of the production. So recently, 3 days back, I have seen in the paper, uh, in that I got the statement, BCG vaccination program has reduced the death rate of COVID-19 infection cases. How they have made this statement? The one of the research scholars in the Jawaharlal Nehru University, he has conducted the research and also compare with the mortality rate of the COVID cases. The country which have implemented this vaccination program, he has collected the data. The country they did not implemented this BCG vaccination program, he also collected the death rate of that which are affected with coronavirus. He has made the comparison between the vaccination program implementation without implementation, and in that data he found that the death rate is more in the country which is not implemented the vaccination program. Okay, there is no significant difference between the boys and girls with respect to their academic achievement score. Also already have discussed this also, and null hypothesis is, as I told, it is always possible for the rejection. It may be acceptable or it can be rejectable, it depending upon your test and outcome of the result. Next, very complementary to the null hypothesis is alternative hypothesis. The rejection of null hypothesis leads to the acceptance of alternative hypothesis. The rejection of null hypothesis indicating that the relationship between the variable. Suppose if I say that there is the academic performance between the boys and girls is same, or there is no difference between the boys and girls with respect to the academic achievement score, if that hypothesis is rejected, means what next? If it is rejected, means you can come to the conclusion that there is a difference. One may be more, another may be less. Maybe girls are more academic score than that of the boys. That we call it as a alternative hypothesis. Always it is, states the relation between the two variables. Here boys and girls, gender is one of the variable and academic score is another variable, and it states the relation between these variables. It says always there is a difference, there is association, there is a relation between the two variable or any of the variable. Always it says if it is totally opposite to the null hypothesis. If the null hypothesis says that there is no difference and this says that there is a difference. If there is no difference between the boys and girls, there is no difference between the expenditure and income of the family. Here it always says that there is a difference between there is a relation between the income and expenditure of the family. And also it states that there is a difference between the population parameter and sample statistics. And this H1 alternative hypothesis is always denoted by H1 or HA. Okay, H1 is equal to mu. Population mean is not equal to mu H naught. Okay, so not equal means what? So this if it is not equal means it shows that this is a non-directional hypothesis. So here mu is equal to population mean, mu H naught is equal to hypothesized mean or sample mean. Okay, you have to compare it. It's just example. The population Indian standard height or the average height of the Indian citizen, as I told, its a benchmark is 5.5 feet. And if you collect the sample of 100 or 200 or 300, measure the height and calculate the average height. If you compare with that hypothesized mean, then you can take the conclusion. If it is nearest to the hypothesized value, the null hypothesis is accepted. If it is deviating from that value, it can be less than the standard value or it is more than the standard value. Example, there is a difference in the average sale of the month before the training and average sale of the month after the training. Earlier example only I will take uh, the average sale of the month before the training. So here training is nothing but you are going to impacting the enhancing the sale skills. That's all. Now what is your intention? I want to see the whether the whatever the 1 month training is given, whether it has made any impact on the sale production. So how you can do it? You have to take the average before the month of the training, you collect the average sale, and after the training 1 month you take this average sale and compare it. If it is a difference exists, then you can say that there is a the training given to the sales is made a most impact. It has made a more impact on the self the production. Okay, this way you can come to the conclusion in the hypothesis. There is a significant difference between the girls and boys with respect to their academic achievement also. So if it is not equal means girls may be more than boys, or boys are more than the girls in the academic achievement score. Suppose the average number of the students in the postgraduate class is 50, then the hypothesized can be expressed as follows. The h naught is equal to mu h naught is equal to 50, where the mu is the population mean, mu h naught is equal to hypothesized mean. You say standard values in this class, the standard intake of the class is 50. Maybe admission you have to take for 50. This year the admission may be near to the 50 or less than that, or plus or minus it may be. Okay, you take the standard deviation. Okay, where the population mean and mu h naught is equal to hypothesized mean. The alternate hypothesis can be stated if any of the three form. So that is h1 is equal to h1 mu is not equal to mu h naught. Okay, that class intake is not equal to 50. It may be more than 50 or it may be less than 50. It is obvious that when you conclude the null hypothesis, it has to be rejected, or we can automatically accept the alternative hypothesis. In the testing of hypothesis, if it is rejected means automatically what next? Next is only we have to accept the alternative hypothesis. If it is there means if it is no relation is there, automatically we can come to the conclusion there is a relation. The hypothesis should be formed before the sample data is to be drawn and data to be collected. Okay, hypothesis has to be formulated before you have to decide the sample and collect the sample data. In the testing of hypothesis, we come across types of hypothesis. One is null hypothesis, other one is alternative hypothesis. Briefly I explain this one. Null hypothesis says that there is no difference, there is no correlation, there is no association between the variable. That means this is equal to this. This is population parameter and sample statistics. Since the sample is drawn from the population, it also exhibiting the same characteristics. But whatever the difference exists, sometimes we may come across the fluctuation of the data or the sample error, or by chance it may be occurs. It may be same, but due to some certain situation we may come across the difference. Okay, this is null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis is always says that the possible rejection of null hypothesis always leads to the alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis says that there is a difference, there is association, there is a correlation between the variable. Okay, this is a very powerful hypothesis. Also, one has to deal with the both hypothesis. In the testing of hypothesis, again we have another two important things we come across in the testing of hypothesis: one-tailed test and two-tailed test. Okay, what is this one-tailed test and two-tailed test? It is a technical terms. We have to take into care of this one-tailed test and two-tailed test. A hypothesis is that can be two-tailed test or one-tailed test. It is decided by the alternative hypothesis whether it is one-tailed or two-tailed test. Okay, so this one-tailed or two-tailed, okay, this is decided by alternative hypothesis. Okay, h naught is equal to mu is equal to mu h naught. Okay, null hypothesis says this is equal to this ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು, ಬಟ್ alternate hypothesis this is not equal to this ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Okay, this h1 is equal to mu is not equal to mu h naught. Okay, if it is not equal means then we have two possible options. Maybe it is more than the mu population mean, or it may be less than population mean. Now we have two options, maybe more, maybe less. This leads to the two-tailed test. Okay, the alternate hypothesis imply any direction. It is simply express not equal, indicates that the population mean may be less than or more than mu is greater than mu h, or mu is less than mu h naught. The two-tailed test is a non-directional. It doesn't show any perfect direction. It is not, says not equals, maybe more, maybe less. It may be positive, it may be negative. It may be lead into the two possibilities, maybe more than or maybe less than the population mean. You look at here, this can be represented by using the standard normal curve. Here we see that graphical representation of the curve. Okay, in this case the shaded area on both sides of the curve. Okay, here the possible rejection region is on both sides. This is nothing but a two-tailed test. If it is not equal means the possible rejection region may be on the left side or may be on the right side. Okay, this indicates the two-tailed test curve. The acceptance critical region A, Z value is a Z distribution value. From the Z distribution value at 5% level, from the table we have taken Z value is equal to less than or equal to 1.96. The rejection critical region is equal to greater than 1.96. Look at the earlier graph here. If the calculated value lies between minus 1.96 to plus 1.96, it is in the acceptance region. Your null hypothesis, if the calculated value lies in between these values, then it is in the acceptance region, then the null hypothesis is accepted. In case if the calculated value lies beyond this value, either it is more than 1.96 or it is less than 1.96, then it is in the critical region. Okay, if it is more than or less than 1 minus 1.96, it is in the critical region. If it is in between minus 1.96 to plus 1.6, it is in the acceptance region. In case of two-tailed test, the level of significance is 5%. Area under the rejection region is 0.05. Okay, so here we have tested for 5%. Okay, always the level of significance for the possible rejection of rejecting the null hypothesis is we have to set the level of significance. Later I will going to discuss the meaning of what is level of significance. Either it is 1% or 5% or 10%. Sometimes it goes to the 25% also, but most of the cases in case of parametric test, to see the precision of the result, either you have to test at 5% or at 1%. If the Z calculated value is greater than 1.96, the null hypothesis is rejected. You go to here, if it is a 1.96, more than 1.96 means the 5% has been equally divided on either side of the curve, 2.5% on the left side and 2.5% on the right side. Okay, if the values lies between this, it is acceptance region. If it is beyond this, it is a critical region. Okay, so the value is between 1.96 to 1.56. When the alternate hypothesis specify the population mean is greater than or less than hypothesized mean, the one-tailed test is also called as a directional test. If I say if the sample mean is greater than the population mean, then if it is greater than, the statements itself says that straight away you can take the decision the rejection possible curve lies on the right side of the curve. Okay, if the sample citizen average, if it is more than the population average of the height, then if it is more than means it is on the greater side, it is on the right side. For suppose the calculated sample average height of the citizen is 6 feet, the average national height of the citizen is 5.5, then in the statement I made very clear that the sample size Karnataka people height is more than the Indian citizen height, then it is on the right side automatically. The one tail test is also called as a directional test. It clearly shows this is greater than, this is less than. If the Karnataka people average height is less than the Indian average height, then straight away you can, it shows the direction. It is on the left side. If it is greater, it is on the right side. It may be right tail test or it may be left tail test. The H naught mu is equal to mu H naught is a null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, if it is a greater means mu is greater than mu H naught. Look at here, diagrammatically representation of the right tailed test. So if the acceptance critical region, it is from 0 to 1.645. If the calculated value of the your test lies between 0 to 1.645, then it is in the acceptance region. If the rejection region means if the calculated value more than the 1.645, then it is in the critical region. In case of the population mean is greater than the hypothesized mean, and at 5% level of significance, the entire rejection is 0.5 is lying on the right of the curve. It is more than the hypothesized value. Automatically the rejection, possible rejection of the curve is placed on the right side. It is one tail test. Okay. If the sample statistics calculated value is less than the population parameter value, then it is on the left side. It is on the left side. If the Karnataka people average height is less than the national average, then it is automatically lies on the left side. You look at this graph, you come to know the left side how it goes to fall. So that mu is less than mu naught. It is curve is possibly on the left side of the curve. In this case, the population mean is less than the hypothesized mean, and at 5% level of significance, the entire rejection is 0.05 is lies on the left side of the curve. Here, no division of 5%. If it is in the two directional means, that means non-directional means there is a chances of division of 5%, 2.5 on the left side, 2.5 on the right side. But in this case, entire 5% will be shift. If it is more than 5% on the right side, if it is less than 5% totally on the left side. Okay, the values lies, if the calculated value is lies in between 1.645, then it is in the acceptance region. If its value is beyond 1.645, then it is in the critical region, minus. In this case, we come across type 1 error, type 2 error. Another important concept we have to understand in the testing of hypothesis is type 1 error, type 2 error. While testing the null hypothesis, a researcher can commit a two type of error while accepting the null hypothesis. Okay, any researcher for that matter, there is a chances of committing the mistake while accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. When it is wrong, it is called type 1 error. And rejecting the null hypothesis when it is correct is type 2 error. You clearly understand what is type 1 error, what is type 2 error. What is type 1 error? Type 1 error is a error when you are rejecting the null hypothesis when it is correct. It is, even though it is correct, forcibly you are rejecting it. it is called as type 1 error. What is type 2 error? Type 2 error is a one you are accepting a wrong null hypothesis. In the true sense, it is wrong, even though you are accepting it. This kind of mistake we call it as a type 2 error. You have given here in the form of tabular table format how you can able to you can discuss about this type 1 error, type 2 error. The possible decision can be written in the tabular form. When the null hypothesis is true, you are not going to reject it. Okay, it is true, you are not rejecting it, you are taking the correct decision. When the null hypothesis is true, you are rejecting it. It is wrong decision. This is called as a type 1 error. Once again I will repeat. When the null hypothesis is true, you are rejecting it. This is called as a type 1 error. Come to the other side. When the null hypothesis is false, you are don't rejecting it. You are accepting it. Don't rejecting means it is accepting it. Even though it is wrong, you are accepting it. This is we are committing a type 2 error. When it is a false, you are rejecting it. It is a correct decision. Okay. Type 1 error is rejecting null hypothesis when it is true. Type 1 error we are committing, we are rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. Type 2 error, accepting the null hypothesis when it is wrong. Even though it is wrong, we are accepting the null hypothesis. So look at the two value here, alpha and beta. Alpha is indicating probability of committing type 1 error. Beta is indicating probability of committing type 2 error. You understand this alpha and beta and type 1 error, type 2 error. Type 1 error is what? So as I told while discussion, while rejecting or testing the null hypothesis, the researcher has a possibility of committing type 1 error and type 2 error. When is rejecting null hypothesis, when it is true, it is a type 1 error. When is accepting the wrong null hypothesis, it is type 2 error. Okay. Type 1 error. When the null hypothesis is true, when it is accepted, then it is said to be a correct decision. If it is a true, you are accepting it, it is a correct decision. However, when it is a true, still you are rejecting it, it is a type 1 error. To understand the concept in a more clear way, it can be compared with the legal analogy. In order to understand in the better way the concept of type 1 error is what is this? So rejecting null hypothesis when it is true. When it is in the true sense, you are forcibly rejecting it. That we call it as a type 1 error. This we can compare with the analogy, legal analogy, in the court of law. A person is very innocent. The court declare him as innocent. Then it is a correct decision. If the innocent person in the court by some mistake or by some force he declared as a guilty person, in the true sense he is a very much innocent. He did not commit any kind of crime, any injustice he not done it, but by somebody force or by some mistakes, by some documentary evidences, the court declare him as a guilty person. Okay, an innocent person is going to face the punishment. It is very unfair on the part of the law, and is convicted. Then he called him as a type 1 error. Innocent person declare him as a crime and is convicted. He is punishable. because of the cold mistake he has to suffer. This kind of mistake we call it as a type 1 error. The probability of the type 1 error is known as a level of significance. It has to be decided in advance. The level of significance is 10%. Type 1 error is fixed at 10%. It indicates that there are about 10 chances out of 100 will be rejecting the null hypothesis is true. Andre out of 100%, 10% of chances we are going to rejecting the true null hypothesis. Or in the another analogy, in the while playing the cricket, the batsman actually is not out. Umpire declare him is not out. It is a correct decision. In the actual situation, actually the batsman is not out, but umpire is given out. In the true sense, he is actually not out, but because of the mistake of umpire is given out, it is a committing type 1 error. The chance of committing type 1 error can be controlled by fixing the significance level at the lowest level. Okay, if you giving the long level of significance, there is more chances of committing type 1 error. So as possible, we have to fix the level of significance at the lower side. Either it is 5% or 1%, so that committing the type 1 error is very less in the while testing of hypothesis. Type 2 error. When null hypothesis is wrong or false, then rejecting is correct decision. However, when null hypothesis is false, even though it is accepting, it is termed as a type 2 error. Even though it is wrong, but you are accepting it as a correct, you are making a wrong decision. We call it as a type 2 error. When it is wrong, reject it. Very good decision you have taken. And if it is wrong also, you are accepting it. This we are committing a mistake. This we call it as a type 2 error. The level of significance. It is indicate the probability of rejecting true null hypothesis. It is generally fixed at 1%, 5%, 10%. Or sometimes it is at 25% also. It is usually denoted by alpha. The choice of the level of significance is made after assessing how much risk the researcher will be willing to take, what impact will have on beta risk. To reduce the probability of committing type 2 error, then the probability type 1 error should be high. Suppose we may fix 25% as a level of significance. There are 25 out of 100 chances of committing type 1 error. Look at here, we have to balance here both the type 1 error, type 2 error, label, beta value as well as alpha value. If you want to reduce the alpha value, that is level of significance, on the other side, indirectly the beta value will have more risk. If you reduce the level of alpha, level of significance, on the other side, the beta value have a more chance. If you increasing the level of significance, alpha value, and on the other side beta value on the less impact on it. So while you are testing, we have to manage both alpha level as well as beta value. So we have to design accordingly. You have to test the hypothesis. Power of test beta. So what is beta value? Beta value is nothing but type 2 error. We call it as a beta value. The power of test states how well the test is working. A good test of hypothesis would be one that rejects the null hypothesis when it is false, or lower the probability of accepting null hypothesis is the false. The good test should have high 1 minus beta. The value of beta should be 1 minus beta value should be high. The closer the value of 1 minus beta to 1, it is a good testing of hypothesis. Better is the test working. A high 1 minus beta ensure that the researcher has the best chance of rejecting the null hypothesis. Always beta and 1 minus beta. If the 1 minus beta value is nearest to 1 means the testing hypothesis is correct, and there is a best chance of rejecting the null hypothesis. The power of test depends upon three parameters. Number one is significance level of the test, alpha value, either it is a 1%, 5% or 10%. Reliability of the sample size. What is the sample size of your, it is a 300, 400, 50 or 60 or whatever it may be. And the effect of the size, the difference between the observed value and expected value, that play very important on the uh, power of test. Formulate the hypothesis. The research problem should have defined very clearly, state the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Before testing the hypothesis, the researcher should have to state very clearly and specifically about the hypothesis. Null hypothesis states that there is no chance, there is no difference between the two sample mean or between the sample mean and population mean. Whereas the alternative hypothesis states that there is a chance of difference between the two sample mean or between the sample mean and population mean. The researcher has to test the null hypothesis to accept or reject it based on the evidences. The alternative hypothesis is the opposite to the null hypothesis. Select the relevant test and probability distribution. These are the steps followed in testing of hypothesis. In this step, we have to select the statistical techniques and probability distribution. Which test we have to use for your testing the null hypothesis? Whether T test or Z test or F test or ANOVA test or chi-square test or sign test or Spearman test or correlation test. The choice of the probability distribution depends upon the purpose of the hypothesis test. The researcher should have carefully see how test statistics is computed with the sample distribution is followed. Whether the sample distribution follows the normal distribution, chi-square distribution, T distribution or Z distribution. Choosing the critical value. The next step is the deciding upon the criteria for accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. It is very important. Based on the level of significance, degree of freedom, and whether it is a one-tail test or two-tail test. So the criteria for accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis depends upon three important things. One is level of significance, degree of freedom, and one-tail test or two-tail test. The level of significance you should be specified in terms of percentage, either it is 1% or 5% or 10% or 5 or 25% of the significance level. States that if there are 5 chances out of 100 not accepting the correct null hypothesis. The choice of the correct significance level depends upon the cost involved and committing on alpha and beta error. Okay. So you have to see, in order to decreasing the level of significance, type 1 error, you have to enhance the sample size. If sample size is more, automatically the chances of rejecting the null hypothesis is less. But at the same time, you should see that the cost associated with the sample size is also very important. You have to keep in that also in your mind. The choice of the correct significance level depends upon the cost involved and committing on alpha and beta error. The degree of freedom refers to the free data used in the calculating the sample or test statistics. It can be represented by df is equal to n minus k. Okay, where n is the sample size, k is the number of linear constraint. Okay, the degree of freedom is always, it depends upon df is equal to n minus 1 if it is a 2 constraints in the sample. If it is n minus 2, n minus 3, how many constraints are there, that much we have to minus this total size of the sample. And fourth step is collect the data and test statistics. Next stage involves the drawing in a sample and collect the data using the data collection strategy that suits the purpose of the study. From using this data, test statistics computed. Compare the test statistics and the critical value. This is a critical test where the test statistics computed earlier is compared with the critical specified value. So a very important step in this case, whatever the calculated value we have, that we have to compare with the table value with the appropriate level of significance and degree of freedom. If the Z distribution is being used, the calculated Z value with the appropriate DF and level of significance, and then compare with the Z distribution value with 1.96% with the calculated value. If the calculated value is much more than that of the table value, then you can say that null hypothesis is rejected and alternative hypothesis is accepted. That means your calculated value lies in the rejection region. Therefore, null hypothesis is rejected. Taking the final decision. This is a final step of the testing of hypothesis. This is the last step in the testing of hypothesis. The researcher has to make the decision of accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. If the Z value is calculated from the sample lies in the critical region, if the value is greater than 1.96, then it is a rejection region. The null hypothesis will be get rejected. If the calculated values lies in the rejection region, then automatically null hypothesis is rejected. That means if the calculated value is more than plus or minus 1.96, then it is in the critical region. If the Z statistics value is less than 1.96, then it is in the acceptance. If the calculated value is in between 1.96 to minus 1.96, then it is in the acceptance region. Null hypothesis is accepted. Type of hypothesis test. The hypothesis test helps in generalization about the population from the sample statistics value. We are using various types of statistical test for testing the hypothesis. The different type of hypothesis test can be broadly classified as a parametric test and non-parametric test. Parametric test basically, in the statistics we have very broadly two type of statistics. One is parametric test, another one is non-parametric test. These tests are based on some assumption about the population from which the sample has been drawn. So this parametric test always based on the assumption of the parameter or population parameter. These assumptions are with respect to the sample size, type of distribution on the population parameter like a mean, median, mode, like this. The standard deviation, etc. The most commonly used parametric tests are Z test, T test, chi-square test, F test. Parametric tests are more powerful than the non-parametric test as they are interval or ratio data. They are using interval or ratio data. They are very powerful and we can draw many outcome of the statistics can be done on this. Characteristics of parametric test. Samples should be drawn independently. They normally follow the normal distribution. The given data should be distributed normally. They require an interval or ratio measurement scale so that arithmetic operation can be performed. Let us take a Z statistics. Z is used for judging the significance of mean and proportion. Z is used for T distribution, binomial distribution or Poisson distribution. When the sample size is very large on the presumption that such a distribution turn to approximate normal distribution as the sample size became a large. When usually Z test is there is no difference that much between T test and Z test. Only difference is if the sample size is less than 30, we have to use T test. If it is more than 30, we have to use Z test. The critical Z value is found from the table showing the area under normal curve at a specified level of significance. This Z test value is compared with the calculated Z statistics for the judging the significance. The Z test can be used when the population is normal and the standard deviation is known. You have to apply three conditions here while testing of Z test statistics. One is sample is large. That means if the sample n is greater than 30, sample size is more than 30, and the distribution is normal. Okay, data distribution should be normal. Population should be normally distributed. And other condition is the standard deviation should be known. Then only you can apply this Z statistics. The test statistics is the sample mean x bar and the standardized statistics is the Z. So Z value, the Z formula is given by Z is equal to x bar minus mu divided by square root of n, where mu divided by square root of n is equal to, we call it as a standard error. Okay, by using this formula we can calculate the Z statistics that we can compare with the table value, usually 1.96. If the calculated value is more than the table value, you reject the null hypothesis. If it is less than, you accept the null hypothesis. When n is greater than 30, the sample standard deviation can be substituted for standard deviation. This is an example to how you can calculate the Z statistics. A manufacturer claimed that the researchable battery have a average life greater than 1000 hours charges. A random sample of 10 battery has mean life of 1002 charges hour charges and the standard deviation of 14. Is there enough evidence to support the claim of company at 1% level? So here the company has made, so they have a standard value of 1000 hours charges and sample of 10 batteries given 1002 with a standard deviation of 14. Now we have to check the company claim, is it correct? So t is equal to x bar and small, so you look at here, okay, x bar minus mu standard deviation by square root of n. So this is a 1002 minus 1000 divided by 14 by square root of 100. It is calculated value is 0.45. Okay, then we can take the decision that the calculated value is less than the 1.96. Therefore company claim is almost correct. Okay, it is on and average it is a 1000 hours charges capacity. Next one is a t-test. The test is a univariate test that uses a t-distribution for testing the sample mean and proportion. When the size of the sample is small, if it is less than 30, t-distribution is symmetrically bell-shaped curve. The variance of t-distribution approaches the variance of standard normal distribution. As the sample size increases, the t-distribution for the mean is a statistical test for population mean. The t-test can be used when the population is normal or nearly normal. When what is the condition to use the t-test between z-test and t-test? If the sample size is less than 30, if the standard deviation is unknown, if the population distribution is normal, then you have to use the t-test. T-statistics is the sample mean x bar and the standardized t-test is t. T is equal to x bar minus mu divided by standard deviation divided by root of mean. The degree of freedom are always df is equal to n minus 1. Again work out the example on t-test. Okay, that local telephone company claimed that the average length of the phone call in 8 minutes. In the random sample of 18 phone calls, the sample mean was 7.8 minutes and the standard deviation is 0.5 minutes. Is there enough evidence to support the claim at 5%? You have calculated here, substitute the mean value, standard deviation value and sample size. 7.8 minus 8 divided by 0.5 root of 18, it almost works to be 1.70. Calculated value is how much here? 1 minus 1.70. What is your table value? Table value is 1.96. So now minus 1.96, 1.90, it lies in the acceptance region. The company claim is correct. Okay. F-test. F-test is based on the F distribution. It is generally used to compare the variance between the two set of observations. Here we have to, in the earlier Z-test and T-test, we are compared to use the mean value, but in case of F-test, we have to compare the variance values. F distribution is a frequency distribution that uses two set of degree of freedom. One is numerator, other one is denominator. ANOVA is in case of using F-test to compare the variance. Next one is chi-square test. The chi-square test is used for testing the relationship between the two qualitative variable, association between the exposure to the mass media and use of public service utilities is one example. The chi-square test, even we can take many examples. The association between the gender versus the type of school also, and we can see the so many things. Gender versus caste wise distribution, income versus caste, occupation versus other things, we can see it. The chi-square test based on the absolute number, not percentage. Minimum cell value should not be less than 5. Use Fesser test for small sample. this is the procedure for calculating the chi-square test. Level of significance is set at 5%. Collect the sample data. Calculate the chi-square test by using the formula observed values expected value divided by expected value. Observed frequency, OI means observed frequency, EI means expected frequency. To calculate the expected frequency, you have to use this formula: row total ith frequency into column total ith frequency divided by grand total. You get the expected value of each value. Non-parametric test. These are the distribution pre-test. These are totally free-form distribution, as they are not depend on the assumption regarding the population distribution. They test the hypothesis on monominal and ordinal. The chi-square test or non-parametric test uses either nominal data or the ordinal data. They lay less emphasis on the assumption. The chance of committing type 2 error, that is accepting the false null hypothesis, are high. However, compared to the parametric test, they are quick and easy to perform. The non-parametric test is the only option for the nominal data and sometimes ordinal data. The sum of the non-parametric tests are sign test, Mann-Whitney test, Kruskal-Wallis test, Wilcoxon test, Spearman correlation test, Kendall coefficient test. These are the tests we have discussed so far. With this discussion, I am going to conclude my presentation. Once again, I thanks to the organizer of this webinar, especially thanks to the principal of the Government Degree College, Badami. Also thanks to the organizing secretary, especially the Siran Basappa, and also the Dr. S.A. Patil sir. They have given the opportunity for me to present, and invited me as a resource person for this webinar. Thank you so much.